Hello, I'm very glad to welcome you to this seminar series of the spring semester. Very glad to introduce our first speaker, Professor Cristina Nita-Rotaru. She is assistant professor in the CS department and faculty member of CERIAS. She does a lot of interesting work dealing with security and reliability for distributed computing systems and wireless network. So I will stop here and leave the floor to Cristina.
Hello, everybody. I would like first to wish you a good semester, since this is the first seminar in our series, and we start much earlier at other schools, so we need a lot of stamina to go through the semester. So I hope that you're going to have a great semester. Today I will give a talk on security topics in wireless networks, and more particularly I want to focus on routing. And this is joint work with two groups of people. The first group is from Johns Hopkins University, the school where I got my PhD. And this involves Professor Baruch Auerbuch and three students and good friends of mine, Reza Kurmola, Dave Holmer, and Herb Rubens. And the second part of the talk is going to focus on work that I did here at Purdue University with two graduate students. Actually, one already graduated, Bogdan Cărbunar and Ioannis Ioannidis. Oops. Now, why wireless? Well, because wireless is a very exciting area today. And I'm not talking only from the research point of view. I'm talking from the point of view of, everyday life. Almost every people here in the room has a cell phone, has a laptop that is using wireless connection. Many of you probably an iPad or a PDA, and that also has a wireless connection. So from this point of view, wireless technology really created a paradigm shift in the way everyday activities are deployed, in the way business is it's pursued, and also the way teaching goes. I think it's really great to have a laptop with a wireless connection, and instead of saying in some dark lab in the basement, being in a much better environment, maybe a coffee shop or outside, depending on your preference. And there are several aspects of it. So the first one that really created a big impact was the Wi-Fi technology that allows us to deploy wireless LANs, and through some gateway get access to the internet. This really was, this I think was something that brought the attention to wireless to many people. Cellular networks have been around for a while, but what become more interesting is at the point when, besides just voice communication, you could do data, and you could also do images. In fact, I'm originally from Romania, and I just came back from home, and Romania is not US, right? But I was very nicely surprised to see that I could get data access. You could get data transfers through a cellular network. And for me, it was really great. Just go get a wireless phone, a small cable, and I was on the internet, and I could do my work. As opposed as, in going through the wired network, it will take months till they change the plugins. Don't ask me why it takes so long. It's just bureaucracy. So that was really, really great. And there are countries like Japan and Europe where you can also get more than just data. You can get images. You can get much better services. Now, more recently, and this is something that I think will be interesting not only for people interested in research, but also many of you that graduate and they're looking for jobs in industry. It's something that people call mesh networks. It's basically a way in which the goal is to provide some of that huge bandwidth that is out there on the wire cable, but you don't get it in your apartments. Most of you probably have a DSL connection, and I know that many of us are happy with it, but just imagine if instead of that DSL connection, you're going to have a much better connection. And there is a lot of interesting work in this direction. There are many companies that are working on providing this type of service. Research-wise, it brings new challenges. And as I said, this is something that is really exciting. Now, I'm mostly interested in security. And unlike many other services, security is something that is very difficult to touch it and to put your finger on, right? When you're talking about communication, you have your cell phone. If you don't have a good communication, you immediately know. The sound drops. You don't hear very well what's going on, or you cannot reach a person. Security, you kind of notice that, you notice its usefulness when it's not there, just because something bad happens. So that's not that's not really a good thing. Why is security important for wireless? Well, for instance, one service that is important is something called access control. And this is not particular to wireless, but for wireless communication, if you have an infrastructure or you have a network in which you don't control the access of people who get access to the network, that has another implication because the wireless medium is shared, which means that the more people you're going to have accessing the network, the quality of your server, your service will go down. So it's a good idea to have such a thing, not only for security purpose, but it has also other implications. Another security service that it's probably one of the most well-known, it's called confidentiality, which means that when I'm sending data over the network, nobody can understand that information, but whoever I want it to send to, which is the receiver. For wireless communication, the confidentiality is actually more important for wired networks, just because it is much easier to eavesdrop the communication. And the Pringle box that I have there, I just took it from some presentation that some people from Berkeley did some time ago, and that's exactly what they used to get their small antenna, which they could intercept wireless communication. Of course, if you don't care about the fact that other people can understand your data, that's a different story. Now, other things that are important, many wireless networks are so-called ad hoc networks, which means that the communication between a sender and the receiver takes place through intermediate hops. And the problem there is how much trust do you have with respect to forwarding your data in the intermediate hops. So this is something that you have to have in mind when you have such a network. Why? Because they see your data, they may collect it, they may use the information or sell it or whatever. And last but not least, I teach cryptography, and usually when we talk about cryptography, we care a lot about, cryptographic mechanisms. How do we protect all, data communication? And we don't pay attention to things that are actually sometimes can be more dangerous. And physical security is such a thing, because you can protect the communication over the network, do the most sophisticated algorithms. If somebody stole your computer and data that was stored in the computer is not protected, then your security is kind of gone. So physical security is particularly problematic or important for devices that have wireless communication, just because it happens that all these devices are very small. So it's very easy to, you can lose them, they can be stolen. And once such a device is stolen or it's captured by somebody that wants to perform some malicious action, it's going to be more difficult to defend against an attack coming from somebody that has a device that is authenticated. These are just some of the arguments why would you need security. There are many others, and I'm sure that any of you will be able to bring more on the table. Now, as I said, most of them are not necessarily specific to wireless communication. And we know for wired networks, we know how to deal with most of these problems. But we cannot just take whatever was done before, just take it, you just apply it to wireless networks and everything works mostly. And mostly this is because the environment is different. So you have to deal with several constraints. Mobility is one of them. The fact that we like wireless devices because they allow us to be everywhere, but that means that from the communication point of view, it's more difficult and security point of view, it's more difficult to provide these services. We also have constraints in terms of energy because most of these devices are battery operated. So you have to design protocols and services that are able to take this into account. And there are other things like the fact that the environment is, most of it is decentralized. Wireless communication is also very vulnerable to jamming. The physical layer, it's quite vulnerable, and that's something that also has to be taken into account. So this being said, what can adversary can do?